A workshop is not a workshop unless everyone is contributing to the conversation. And storytelling activities are a great way to peel back the layers and get people talking about things that are just below the surface. In this video, I share 3 storytelling activities that get people going a little deeper so that they can connect, learn, and problem solve together. Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Kerry Price. I'm the founder of the Facilitators Network, and I use the principles of deliberate generosity to make sure that no meeting or workshop is ever wasted. I've been a professional facilitator for 20 odd years, and in that time I've led thousands of meetings, workshops, and community conversations. Nowadays, I help other trainers and facilitators do it well too. Activity 1 is all about connection. And there are a bunch of different prompts you can help to form connection through storytelling. But one of my most favourite prompts is share a story from your keyring. So I invite people to pull their keyring out of their bag, have a look at the keys or the tags that are attached to the ring, and I invite them to find a partner and share a story related to something on their keyring. Now, what's interesting about this prompt is people take it in all sorts of different directions. I've been in workshops where people have shared a key and said, this is the key to my auntie's flat. She has early onset dementia and I check in on her every day just to see that she's doing okay. I'm really worried that one day I'm going to turn up at the flat and she won't know who I am. That broke open the room and started a whole other level of conversation. But telling a story from your keyring doesn't have to be that vulnerable. I've also been in workshops where people have shown a gym membership and said, this looks like a gym membership tag, but really it's just a very expensive keyring because I've never actually made it to the gym. The wonderful thing about that prompt, share a story from your keyring, is that people can choose to be as vulnerable or not as they like. It's a prompt that provides enough direction to create focus, but enough scope that people can choose whatever story they like to tell. Activity 2 is all about context. And this is about using stories to give context to the workshop topic or purpose, whatever is coming up next. To run this activity, I use story cubes. These ones happen to be Rory's story cubes, but there are all sorts of story cubes that you can buy online. And what they are is a set of dice that have different pictures on every side of the cube. You get 9 dice in every tin. What I do for this activity is I distribute the dice amongst the team so that every person has 1 dice. And I invite them to get into small groups of 3 or 4. Then the prompt is roll the dice and share a story about leadership or communication or whatever your workshop is about. Share a story about that prompted by the picture that shows up. So for example, I might roll this dice and it comes up with a padlock. That to me talks about unlocking. So if I was in a leadership workshop, I might say one of my first managers was really good at unlocking the potential in me and others in the team. And I share a story about an example of when that showed up. Or I might roll this dice, which has got an L on it, standing for learner driver. And I might share a story about someone I coached who was a new manager and had really been thrown in the deep end without support. After I've given people 10 or 12 minutes in their small groups to roll the dice and share their leadership stories related to the picture, I then get them to popcorn some of the common themes back into the room. So it might be, I shared this story about a manager who unlocked potential. And what I recognize is that his ability to do that was rooted in whatever it might be. As people are sharing their stories, we cluster the themes together and we can use that as a jumping off point for whatever is coming up next. Now, obviously in this video, I use the example of telling leadership stories, but you could connect that to whatever the content of your workshop is about. They simply roll the dice and tell a story about that thing as it relates to the picture on the dice. Activity 3 is about problem solving. When you're in a brainstorming session, an ideation session, problem solving session, whatever you might like to call it, often it's easy to come up with the bright ideas or the end goal or the final solution. It's harder to come up with the steps you need to take to get there. So one of the ways I use storytelling to support groups to make a plan is to steal the idea from Pixar about storyboarding. What storyboarding is a little bit like making a comic strip. I invite participants to draw 9 squares on a page, a bit like this, with a little bit underneath to put some text. In the first square, I invite people to put the situation as it is now. And in the last square, I invite them to draw a picture that represents the end goal, the final solution, what the situation might look like 12 months from now. Then I give people 7 or 8 minutes on their own to fill in the squares in between. If they were making a storyboard or a comic strip about getting from here to here, what are the pieces they need to put in between so that the comic makes sense? I get people to do this activity on their own first, and then I get them to buddy up with a partner and compare what the steps were between the two of them. Together, they make a revised comic that may have more or less squares in their storyboard. And then I get 2 pairs to work together as a group of 4 so that they can mold all of those ideas together. Finally, we come back as a group and we make one storyboard that takes us from the situation as it is now to the situation as we'd like it to be, with all the pictures and text and comic strip bits in between. Activity 4 is all about recapping and reflecting on the session. And this is something that I might do either at the end of a workshop or at the beginning of day 2 if it's a multi-day workshop. What it does is it gives people a chance to recap on what's already happened before moving into the next stage of the session. So how that starts is I start the story by saying, once upon a time at 9 o'clock this morning, 12 people arrived in the room. And then I toss the ball to somebody else and say, and then whoever grabs the ball says, and then we open the session by, and recalls what happened at that point in time. The important part of the reflection is not to just recall what happened, but what the experience was like for that person. So that person might say, and then we went into a connection activity where we shared the story from our key ring. And we realized that 6 of us in the team all belong to the gym. And they toss the ball to somebody else in the room. The ball keeps getting tossed around the room in a random order until the whole workshop has been recapped with the things that mattered or the things that stood out bubbling to the surface. Of course, storytelling is only one way that you can encourage contribution and get people talking below the surface. In my next video, Innovative Facilitation Techniques Using Picture Cards, I share a bunch of other activities that use picture cards as a way to get below the surface and get people talking. The link is in the description below. Go check it out.